we'll be bringing that in. So we have Scott Powell
Hi.
right
Sorry,
here.
I'm still
He
trying to get
is
ready.
getting set up. He is going to be presenting with Heath Johnson, who is trying to meld into the crowd, but he's sitting right back here. And they're going to talk. I'll let Scott introduce Heath a little bit more. But Scott is with Vanguard. He is in our business development down in Orem. And he's been in title for 21 years. You'd never tell by looking at him, though. It doesn't look a day over 21. But he's been doing that, and he's also had over 10 years of development experience. He's done stuff out of the country and just tons of experience. And we're really grateful that they're both taking time out of their days to come and educate us both a little bit more. So I will turn the time over to Scott and let him get going. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you. It took us a minute to get all the technology stuff figured out, so I'm sorry that it kind of shines right in here. Yes.
Oh.
Did something happen to the... Do this. Is that? That's not me.
It's lovely.
Maybe we didn't get it figured out.
Oh, really?
You know, have you ever used these mini HDMI adapters? That's what I have to use, and it's not the best. I know, I don't know what happened. I don't know how to get that up.
How are you? I'm so glad.
Are you where you
I have to try to wear it in.
Yes.
Okay, I'll talk for a few minutes while we're trying to figure that out. So as Sue mentioned, I've been doing this in the title industry for about 21 years. And when I first got in the industry, I actually left the computer world, which is kind of embarrassing that I can't fix my computer. But I started out as a marketing representative for a little company called Horizon Title. It was in Utah County, and I remember calling the selling agent and asking them if they could give me the number for the listing agent so that I could try to get title work, which is kind of funny because it's the same person. So I did that. I made multiple mistakes along the way, but I loved it. I loved the diversity. I loved the different aspects of doing things, and the guy that hired me, he did a lot of hard money stuff, which intrigued me, and there was lots of different ways for us to find people that way. But one of the things that frustrated me, and I know you guys are all going to have experience with this, I would go and I would find a loan officer or a real estate agent, and I'd say, hey, I want your title work. And they'd be working on some project or doing something, and they're like, yeah, I can't. You can't get any title work for me because this project, which I was working, is all being controlled by the developer, and all the title work and everything is going in this direction. So even all the listings and everything, like I went through one title company, sometimes the buyers were able to use a different title company. I'm sure you guys have all closed with Edge and know how they are, and Ivory's the same. They just kind of like to control where everything goes. And that was really frustrating to me. And so in order to kind of build my business and to look for a way that I could be the one having those guys do all that, for me, hallelujah. Thank you.
I just have to stand here. I didn't do anything.
Thanks, Andrew.
Why don't you just think Andrew?
Don't
I'm the one who
touch it.
fixed it.
Somehow I knew.
Don't speak up. Andrew didn't fix it.
Then I decided I needed to kind of jump into that world a little bit. I needed to figure out developing and what I could do to help. And I'll be honest, there is a vast, vast difference in the title world when you're doing development as it's just in a regular road. Lot 13, Highland Ridge subdivision, blah, blah, blah. It's all nice and neat right there on the PR. And to go from that closing as we create this is immensely different. It's I can't even portray the stuff I've learned over the last 10 years. And then even the last 8 years as I've worked more closely with Heath, especially the last 3. These are all the projects that I have been helping Heath on the title side. And there's another one that's not even up there. Heath's been doing title work for 35 years. Heath and Brad's his partner here, Brad Jensen, if you want to raise your hand. Ridgepoint Development, and they're specialists in entitlement and development. And it's been a very big learning curve for me. And so one of the things that I learned right off the bat, we did a title project, let me find it, it's on this one, right here, this one right here. It's in Mapleton, it's about 600 lots in Mapleton, some multi-family, some single family, and they're doing 55 and older on it as well. When we pulled that PR, there were 7 boundary line issues and 62 exceptions on the preliminary title report. Most of you are just used to looking at the title report and going, oh, we'll ignore that, especially those first few exceptions on the page. In the development world, we cannot ignore any exception. In fact, when I'm doing those and I'm sharing it, and Heath will talk with you more about who he sells to and how he does it. Each one of those exceptions can end this development. Put it to bed right off the bat. So you have to look at them. In fact, this one right here has an easement for the presiding bishopric of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for a utility access, like right in here. And it's wrong. There's nothing the church owns there. There's no utilities there. It's nothing. It was recorded erroneously. The legal description on it is erroneous. Everything's bad about it. But we have to clear that off. And that is a process, right? You can't just, as it comes to closing, I'm going to just wipe that off. I'll just quickly call up the presiding bishop because I have him on speed dial and have him, take that off. All these things take time. The boundary line issues along here took about 2.5 months for 4 different people for us to resolve. And so each one of those exceptions creates problems. Power line problems, sewer problems. Where's the sewer? How does it all wrap into the project and what kind of cost is it to the developer? So there's been a lot that I've learned. And the nice thing is I am here 2.5 years later as we focus on this, and this is a lot of title work that Vanguard is going to benefit from because of our efforts. And it's been a process, and Vanguard's been very patient with me as I've done it. So I really appreciate their support. And Heath has been fantastic to work with. So these are the projects that he has done, and he's got another one he's going to show you. As I told you, he's got 35 years experience. He's going to take the next few minutes and go over how a lot of this is wrapped together, how it can benefit you, and how it can build your business. And then I'll come back in the next little bit and talk about evaluating the property and really looking at it and what you're looking at and what you're seeing. So, Keith, I'm going to turn the time over to you and let you take it from there. Oh, and I'm going to stand here and push the buttons for you.
Great. Okay, so I wanted to say that we do this, first of all, please ask questions. My partner will tell you that he told me about 2 years ago, he said Heath is one of those guys that he raises his hand and asks any question. He doesn't care if look stupid. Not often I say I look stupid often, but I look stupid less at the end. You know, in other words, I'm going to choose when I look stupid. Not that there's dumb questions, but please ask questions because they will really help. Thanks.
Would you speak up a little bit more?
You bet.
Thanks.
So what we do and discuss is our main focus is entitlement and financing of the project. So we're going to jump into that a bit today. But my goal today, and you guys tell me if you want me to change this, but my hope is to educate you on the development side because all of us are here because it's what we do. Meaning that's how we feed our families. And I think my family by developing, you guys by selling, Title does their thing. And Scott, I told Scott years ago, we had a lady who did her title, and she was the best of any title person I'd ever met. And she had a handful of developers, and she was so good she handled our work. And something happened in '08. And
This is something.
with her age, she decided she worked in '09, and then she sold her shop, and she went an LDS mission, and went to Alaska. And she came back. Her husband was ready to go fishing, and she was still not. She was antsy, so she called me and she said, "Do you have any work?" And I said, "Susan, if I can hire you, we'll find the work." So we hired her, and then within what, Brad, 12, 18 months, we put her over all of entitlement because she was so amazing. So I have this thing with title people. Good title is very hard to find. I'll say that about agents too. I have a handful of agents that I've done deals with, and we'll talk more about this, but I have one guy that I pay between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. He has this other book and what he does, but he knows what I'm looking for, so he feeds me. He'll call me up and he'll say, "I'm going to email you one I'm looking at. Do a quick look at it." And most of the time I call or text him back and say it didn't work, but he keeps feeding me, and all of a sudden we get one that works. And 3% on $3 million is what, 90 grand? So those are nice when you're looking at feeding your family. I tell you that because you sell little stuff. Little stuff isn't little, but a house here and there, and that's bread and butter. But what we're hoping to do is that as you look at this, you'll know what developers and builders like, so you can help feed them. We're also going to talk a bit about 1031 because 1031 is a magic tool if it's in the right hands. And we always look for a win-win. So those are the kind of the areas that we're going to touch base on. So right here, this is a summary of some of our developments. We have a few that aren't on here. We have some commercial that we're not going to focus on today, and we have a big one we'll show you in a second. Your customer, here's how I view it. You have developers, builders, and then general landowners. And what I'm always trying to do, I've got this up, I just want to kind of explain this. This one, okay, if you look at them, this is an Eagle Mountain, and you don't need to change anything, Scott, but if you forget this is here, right here there was 180 lots. And I do a lot with Central Bank, and they came to me in 2009 and said, "We have all this land out there," and I said, "I'm sorry, it's 2009, what can I do?" And they said, "Will you help us fix it?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to help you fix it. It's going to take years before the market's back. Can we sign a contract that I can have it if I go fix it?" And they're like, "You bet." So we started in '09 fixing this. And then in 10, they pushed me to put it under contract, so official contract. So I put it in contract. And in 11, they said, "Now you need to close on it." And I said, "You're my bank. Who's going to lend me the money?" "No, we'll carry it. We'll do this." And so we argued for it, not argued, but back and forth because I didn't want to close on it because I had to pay the property tax and all this stuff. So we worked out a deal. And so Brad and I acquired basically 700, 800 lots. And I still couldn't sell them, and now the market's good. So we sold 180 lots, and we sold it to a group that is called American Homes for Rent. I didn't know them until they showed up in my conference room. And they go in and buy stuff from people like me, and then they turn on sell it. They keep, in this case, I think they're keeping 70 because they're probably traded. I think they have about 60,000 homes they rent. They don't do condos or townhomes. But I learned that they buy these big tracts of ground and then they turn around and sell off to others because they have lots of money. So we sold that one and then the other. So if you look at this one right here, I started with this piece right there. This is an Eber, not this, not that comes up around. So I had that piece, and I was going to do single family. The city came in and said they were redoing the zone, and they wanted to do some affordable housing because the state's pushing affordable housing. And so we just kept going. So then I went to, there's a guy by the name of Teeny. He owned this piece and this piece, and we put that under contract, and then we came in and bought this piece right here. This is owned by the Forest Service. So all this is through the city. 622 units, condos, townhomes, single family. We'll talk more about it. But the point was, the agent that sold me this is why I'm trying to relate it to you, just kept going. So $14 million sell at 3% commission. And what I loved about this agent, he happens to be my brother, is he's tenacious. And he just keeps working at it. A few of you in here know him. But he knows me, and he knows if he gives me the right product, we'll buy it. So my point is, I was tickled because I'm the buyer, right? I'm not paying the commission, but I helped negotiate it, and it was a great deal. And so now we have all these units. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I just want to point that out. Now on this one right here, this is 1,500 and some odd units, and there was an agent on part of it. But as you start seeing all these, we pay huge commissions. And so you can't spend your whole day trying to find developments. But you have to keep your eye open because if you're like me, and it's the same thing, they come across my desk. And when they come across my desk, I know what I'm looking for, and when it hits right, then we start this process. The point is, it's how we feed our families. It's a chance for you to have occasionally life-changing commissions. So I always go to what motivates us all. And I tease and say this, and you don't think bad of me after I do, but money will only buy happiness because food, shoes, air conditioning, heat. In other words, forget going and buying fancy stuff. But if our families have enough, then you're usually pretty happy. So this is a way for you to feed your family and do some great things on a bigger scale. Let's change. Okay, this is one that I wanted to show. We just barely put this one on contract. Everything that you saw before, we entitled. This one we didn't. This one is in Eagle Mountain, and there's 3 areas right now that are really exciting.
You said the other ones you entitled. What was that?
Okay, so we actually tied up the property when it was in the raw form, which we're going to talk about in a second, and then we took them through zone change, engineering, and it takes us a few years.
Right.
And then we have it. And that's what I mean by entitlement, is we take it from raw ground and entitle it to a final product.
So putting in the roads, the utilities, all that.
Yeah, prior to that, all the city councils.
Right.
But yes, this one was unique, and I don't know if you guys know the history of Eagle Mountain, but John Walden was the main guy there. You're nodding your head. Do you know John? Did you know John Walden?
Yeah. Tiffany,
Tiffany.
I think you know my cousin.
Who's
That's
your cousin?
Harmony.
It's Harmony. Who's your cousin?
Scott. Sorry.
Okay. So Tiffany, who I love, her dad was, his whole life, he passed away about 18 months ago. But the story, and I'm not getting into it because it takes all 2 hours, but Eagle Mountain has an interesting history. If you're a developer, it's an amazing story because of the risk that was taken, the amount of money that went into it. It's insane what happened. But when Tiffany's dad passed in partnership, they made a decision to try and sell, and they would decide at 10 o'clock in the morning they were going to sell, at 2 o'clock they weren't. There's like every day it was this, we started this process, and all these developers and builders tried to buy this piece because it's 4,000 units. And we ended up getting it, and we just barely signed. I thought for sure I wasn't going to get it, but the point is, this is the only one that I did entitle, and I could be critical of things they did, but I'm telling you right now, overall, doing what the cities want, they did an amazing job. But this is 2,400 single family and roughly 16, 17, 1,800 multifamily units. It's rural financing. The reason I want to point this out is South Utah County, you still get rural financing, which is basically, it's called RDA. I mean, the buyers can come in with no money down. Then you have Eagle Mountain area, and then you have the Twilla area. Those are the three big areas where development's going because affordable housing has changed. My first condo project I sold units, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, stacked units for $79,900. Edge is selling, we probably sold some of their 10-plex condos. They're a 10-plex with a single car garage, and those are going for $220,000 to $250,000. So affordable housing, I don't know if you went in the room and everyone said what your first house cost. Mine was $67,000. My first payment was a tish under $500. And my neighbor lady, when I was having a nervous breakdown about this house that I moved into with no furniture in my early 20s, she said, honey, you'll have a car payment bigger than that someday. And I said, I will never have a car payment bigger than that. I have a lease on my truck downstairs. I won't tell you what my lease payment is, but I think about that statement all the time. And so for us, our customers affording, so we have determined that we want to be very nice planned communities that have amenities, but they're affordable. Now, before 08, I did Jack Nicklaus golf courses. I did all kinds of stuff that I call insane, stupid, and crazy. And then after that, we decided, no, we're affordable housing. We want to do very, very nice affordable housing. But that's the great thing. What we learned was, and this is magic, you already know this, but I'm going to say it maybe in a way you haven't thought. In 08, my son was 16. He was in high school, not just doing the high school thing. But 10 years later, okay, so I'm actually not 10. So he goes, graduates, does a year of college, does some 2-year service, comes home, finishes college, gets married. So he and his wife both have their degree, and they call me and they say, we found a house, State Street in Pleasant Grove. It's bank loan. I helped him buy it. He buys this house, and it just reminded me that in this country, when you hit a certain age and have a W-2, it's harder to buy a car than is a house if you go with the right kind of Freddie, Fannie. There's financing, right? And so what we learn in the recession is there's this whole new crop of people that didn't have their credit dinged because they're kids, and all of a sudden they graduate. We have the University of Utah, we have BYU, UVU, Utah State. We have this thing that just feeds new customers. And so we decided is, if you look at how the economy healed, it was greatly because new buyers showed up, had a job, and we sold product to them. Most of us had teams on our credit that were at least developers. You didn't go get loans or 7 years for bankruptcy or whatever. But there's this new crop, and so we decided that's what we were going to focus on. This project is an amazing project, which we'll come back and talk to you about in a second. Let's move to the next one.
Question,
Yes.
when you say you tie up a property, what do you really mean by that?
Okay. So I'm going to answer that question by showing you this, if that's okay. So this is South Utah County, and we decided that we wanted product in South Utah County. And I know you guys are different places. You're probably all Salt Lake, but you know the basics. So south of Payson, Santa Cruz. Has any of you sold anything in Santa Cruz? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so to me, Santa Quinn is that place that you drive as you're heading to St. George, you look over and go, what's Santa Quinn? And then I see developers taking risks and selling all kinds of stuff. I'm like, what's going on in Santa Quinn? Affordability and rural financing. And then I start seeing all these people selling. I thought, okay, well, I want to be better. I'm going to go north of Santa Quinn, still south. And so we start diagnosing, and it's back to this type, we started looking at properties, and right around here, you just trust me, there's a little river, and that's the rural financing. And everything here, you have to have more money down. So we started hunting this area. Let's go to the next one. No, it's great. So we found a piece.
I got a quick question.
Okay?
He said that one was the only one you bought was already entitled.
So
So what prompted you to go from raw to entitled?
I'm always, everything I do is based on opportunity. just like you. So I always wanted that piece. And because of Tiffany's situation and her father died, they decided to sell it. And so we jumped, started with a lot of us, and we ended up getting it. But it was because of the scale and the size. We're going to change some things with it. But it's a planned community, and that's what we're doing. It's actually the largest one, too, that's out there other than like a Daybreak. That's up and coming, and it fits in the affordable housing. That's what inspired us to do that. And I'll tell more about that in a second. So this is the Benjamin X. So this piece came available, and it's 280 acres, and it was owned. We've actually closed on it, but it was owned by two ranchers, a father and a son, and we loved. Go back just once. Yeah, right there. We loved the location, and I wanted to tie it up. So I did some preliminary work on it, and then we tied it up. So as a developer, I don't want anyone else to find it. It's competitive, right? So I go out and I contacted the owners, and that's the fun part. It's fun and frustrating because I never know who the owners are. I mean, I've sat around a table with 6 siblings and a mom, the dad's dead, and they're all fighting. I'm like a marriage counselor. There's been times I leave the room and let them fight for a minute. They come back and they're drying their eyes. And so I do with families. Large tracts of grounds are almost always tied up by families. So this is a father and a son, and they're ranchers. And I showed up, knocked on their door, and my heart started pounding because they started yelling at me. They thought it was somebody else. But we first tied it up. And they told me how much they wanted, and I kind of knew, and so we tied it up for a little less than $13 million. Now, there was not an agent involved, which was not normal. Usually I have an agent that is the one that knocks on my door and says, hey, I've got this thing. So we tied this one up, and we put in a contract with conditions, and I had a year to close. And I had to give them, I think it was $100,000 signing, and then $500,000 a few months later. But I can't. To be honest, I don't think I can get it done in a year, but they wanted it done in a year, so we put this one on full court press. But I tied it up first, so it was under contract. And then I was going to do this, I'm evaluating. So, have you ever sold any ground by a main farm? So that was my first biggest concern. So I live in North Orem, kind of by the mouth of Provo Canyon. And I started driving home at least 2 or 3 days a week. I'd get on my phone and drive down and I'd smell. Because the neighbors told me it never smells. And I'm like, yeah. They all smell, right? So I started driving by it. I probably drove by it 100 some odd times in the first 6 months. If I had a long call, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I did the conference call from my truck and I drove down to smell. I pulled down and I rolled down my windows, I pulled in the driveway area, and I could smell. So it's a bit of humor because to this day, that's my biggest risk, and I get to smell anything from it because of the way the guy runs his operation. But that's a huge risk. If I smelled it, I would have put it in a contract. If I had it in a contract and I started smelling it, I'm out of here. So then I love this, freeway exit. So I missed out on Vineyard. You guys driven through Vineyard? Vineyard is, I'm still trying to figure out what happened. I don't know who all those people are. Where did they come from? But Vineyard was affordable housing. Sorry, it's not really affordable now. My daughter lives there. I've got a lot of family that live there. So we were hoping to do a similar thing, but freeway exit is key because I'm showing one in Mapleton in a minute. If you left your house at each of the locations, say you worked in Draper, you're going to get there faster leaving from Salem than Mapleton, even though if you look at I-15, you should get there 10 minutes faster. It's because they have a freeway exit. So that was the key. Then here's another one, sewer treatment plant, open pits. Okay, nightmare. Well, in our due diligence, we find out that the sewer treatment plant, they bonded, and it's right there, right next to my property. I have a lot of experience with sewer treatment plants. The new sewer treatment plants we don't do this anymore. So, to give you more than you want to know, but I have to tell you, all human waste is pressed now. The water sanitized, the solids are pushed over. It never touches the air. So we basically, on the new ones, we've eliminated that. Then you have the cities like American Fork area where they were taking human waste and tree limbs and lawsuits, 10 years of lawsuits. If you drove through the freeway down, you go, gosh, what's going on? Well, they finally got shut down because the smell was so bad. But this was a good thing for us because it's not going to be bad. And so we evaluated the property and said, okay, we're checking off boxes. Sewer treatment plant, we got the pros and cons. Now the other one was standing water. So this is kind of a low area. So I thought, oh no, basements, what are we going to do? And so we did our soils, we checked it. The spring after putting a contract, I drive down there and there's 6 inches of water over half the farm. And so I'm on the phone with my geotechs going, what's the deal? And they said, okay, they put in roads, it's clay, the water doesn't seep in, you're fine, Heath. So I have to go with what I call gray hairs. They've been sued, they're scared, they're like me. And so I went to my geotechs and we're fine. So I eliminated all the issues as I went through the process. I tell you that because as you tie a property, I have agents, and I have one, I'll even use his name, Steve Vincent. So Steve Vincent, who's it with, Brad? Okay, I should know that. Steve, whenever we do a property together, he's with me the whole way. So I have meetings, he's at the meetings. If he finds there's a problem, he's like my right hand. Keith, I'll take that. I mean, he helps me. So I love paying him big commissions. He's the one I referred to a minute ago. But I always pay him a big chunk every year, averaging out. But Steve always helps with this. On this one right here, we went to the city and we started the process. And I'll tell you this, here was the secret. There's always a secret. Right here, and if we drove down there, this is all under construction, a $22 million new sewer treatment plant. And the trunk line runs right through here, which you'll see in a minute. And so all the sewer line comes to here. Now a big trunk line comes down here. So the mayor signed a deal with these two ranchers that they would get 5.4 units to the acre if they gave them the ground for the sewer treatment plant. When I heard that, I said, show me the contract. So that's when I put it under contract. Because all these other issues scared me. But that was the key because I didn't have to fight for density. And you know how that is. Cities, they act like they want affordable housing, but none of them really do. That's the truth. It's just the way it is. So, who has a calculator? If you take 280 times 5.4, tell me what that comes to. $15.12. Okay. We actually got a little more than that because it's not exactly 280. Now we'll round it up. Say 13 million divided by 1,520. Okay. Say that one more time.
8,500.
Okay, so 8,500 is the average price that I'm paying per unit. Okay, I did that in 5 seconds, and I said, okay, I'll worry about the mains, I'll worry about the sewer treatment, I'll worry about this. Let's put this under contract. Why? Because I can provide affordable housing. I can pull this off. So we went to the city, and when we went into the city, I made sure I had the city engineer, who acts like the manager, and the city attorney, who I didn't know at the time. I've since become good friends with them. And I said, we put this piece underground, we're under contract. We have this contract that the mayor signed, and it says we get 1,520 units. The city engineer looked at it and says, what's this? Went to the city attorney and said, is this right? He goes, it is. He goes, so they had this little argument right in front of me. It was uncomfortable. I said, what have we done? We don't want that many. So I'm just sitting there listening, and as a developer, I get these about once a week, right? An uncomfortable moment. I'm supposed to just kind of do this and wait for them to finish their little disagreement. He said to the city attorney, we have 1,800 units. The mayor signed a paper, we're going to add 1,500 plus units to our little city. Do you know what that means? I already thought through all this. I knew exactly what it meant. So they had that little nervous breakdown, and then they embraced it. And I said to them, what do you want? You want us to put 1,520 units this way, or do you guys want a big park? What do you want? They told me what they wanted. Let's go to the next. I think it shows that. Sorry, I kind of Scott's always trying to get me to follow a pattern.
It's like herding cats.
Yeah, he's showing all the densities. The bottom line of this is that it's agriculture. You can't put condos on agriculture. I mean, it was a total. So here's what we have. And the point is that I didn't have to fight for zone change. As a developer, I hate zone changes because it means a fist fight. The only time zone changes are good is if you're bringing in Walmart and they want the tax dollars. And even then, they hate Walmart. You know, it's like you can't win. But this park right here, in fact, how many acres is this?
Park?
Yeah,
62.
62 acres. Okay, this is a giant park. South Utah County, they're baseball fanatics. I don't know if you knew that. So they wanted 5 ball fields. These are all synthetic turf. We're actually, people don't know this yet, we're putting in a large, I'll call it a rec center, that we're going to own, and it's going to be, the association pays it, so it's going to be almost like a mini Lifetime that's in, is that Draper, Sandy? Anyway, but this was the amenity for that. You can see what we got. So we have 55 stacked units, these are these right here, 55 plus apartments, less affluent, but apartments. We have 10 10-plexes. This is the Edge 10-plex, 520 of those. Townhomes, we have 330. And then this whole section right here is 55 and older. So we have the leisure villa style of 4-plex. You guys probably saw some of those. And the singles, which are selling faster than they can build them in Pace and other places. But this is an entire 55 over. This is a storage unit project, which is to hide the fact that there's a sewer treatment project. So distance. So that's what we came up with.
Is that all sold?
The question was, is it all sold? Do you have a buyer?
Yeah.
So we've changed how we're developing. So here's what I've done. I didn't even mention this. We have 130 single family, and these are condos, and then this is commercial. Because this is gonna be like a Baylor style road that goes up through Elk Ridge and out. There's nothing else. So to answer the question, we have this under contract with Century Homes, and then we're doing something we've never done before. We're going to build the rest of it. And so we've partnered with a builder that died in 08. They've been brought back with the paddles.
Didn't physically die, financially died.
No, they physically died.
We
brought them
built
back.
both.
But they just built 1,000 units in vineyards. We partnered with a builder. But let's come back to that comment because I have other stuff for sale. So let me tell you how we did this. And Scott, I might not be following the pattern you want me to follow.
You do you.
So I'm going to tell you now as a developer. So I want you to know this because if you think like me, then you're going to sell them all, right? I said to the Steve Vincent guy, Steve Vincent thinks like me because he knows what I've done enough. We've done enough deals. So the first thing I say is, what's our access? Well, you get off the freeway, you come down, and you come down this road right there. So I have asphalt here, here, and here, but nothing in the middle. So I have that. Then I have to say, well, how am I going to flush toilets here? Well, there's sewer treatment plants there. All of our sewer is going to drive in and drop into a trunk line right here and come out. The next question, water. Now this is where it got interesting. So a community that only has 1,800 homes, and I'm going to add 1,500, there were several nervous breakdowns. One was water. So we agreed at about 400 homes that we sell, we have to put up enough money pro rata to build a 1 million gallon water tank. So in our development agreement, it says we have to do that. Now, we also agreed that I get reimbursed for that by the impact fees. So I have to hold my breath, and I have to give them about $1 million, and then over time, as we put in our building permits, we pay our application fees and all that, that money goes over and right back to me. But it's a trickle. In other words, I finance it. Same with the park. We have to put up $1.5 million a park, and then after that we wait, and then they pay us back. We've committed $8 million to the park. The reason we commit $8 million, and this is in the design of what we do, is because we calculate how much they have in the park budget per building permit, and we get paid. So we just keep the money in front, and then they pay us back. But at the end of the day, we fund $8 million, we get paid back $8 million. That's a $22 million project. So the city's gonna have to come up with the rest of it. I know they're not gonna go into debt. I know they love baseball. So when you look at this right here, this will get built right here. This will get built, and then this might be a little ways out. But the bottom line is, so we have water, I've got power. Now I have some power line issues. We resolved that by putting we agreed to give this ground for a substation. And so this thing is gonna be one of those things when you walk by, you can hear the electricity. So obviously we wanted it kind of away. But that's the way. So when you start looking at utilities, we check all the boxes. So if you were the agent on this, then you would help us through that process. And what I always ask is that the agent is there willing to do stuff. So with the guy that I use and others, what I'll say to them is, they'll invite them to our meetings. And then we divide up at the end of the meeting, we have a to-do list, and say, you're the agency, would you go do this for us? So we don't put too much on their back, but we try to have them help us through the process. And you guys usually show very well. I have some engineers, I don't let them talk to people because they offend them. So that's the kind of stuff that we do.
That substation, why wouldn't you put that in the upper far corner where it's only near 1 or 2 homes versus where you got it, looks like it's near.
You mean up here?
Right.
So can I restate what you said? Hey, stupid, why did you put it there?
I mean, there's a reason why.
I'm in full agreement. So in my world, we all have deity type forces in our life. And the power people said, if we're gonna put power, we need it right here. And I said, okay. So it was not my first choice. I had this spot up here because right here I have wetlands, and so I want to put it right up the road. It's down here because that's in line with their giant power. So with that, that's the negative. The positive is I put it still by the sewer treatment plant, whatever. And by the way, I drove down because I saw their plans. I just was down there twice this last week. They've burned this beautiful fence, stone fence. So the city has gone to great levels to hide the sewer treatment plant. I can't even tell what it is. I'm the guy that knows. And so I'm feeling really good that things are going to be good because sewer smells and mink smell. But that answers your question. I'm glad you asked because that's the kind of stuff I deal with every day. In fact, a side note to that, this corridor, notice, if you look right through here, there's nothing. That's because they have power and sewer lines. And so we had to, even right here, this is RV storage. So we're going to have storage in this area right here because we have to keep it open in case they have to dig it up. But the power people, I did another way and they said it's $150,000 a pole to move. I had to move, I think, 9 or 10 poles. I smiled and I said, we'll redesign it. But in my world, we all have people that when they say stuff like the IRS, I have a lot of IRS type people in my world. And I never want to upset them because our human nature is if you get someone upset, don't be offensive, the pissed off factor. If I get someone mad, if they're the vindictive type, then they're going to teach me a lesson. And let's be honest, most people hate developers. And I'll talk about that in a minute too, because that's a painful thing. Okay, so we talked about the sewer. On this one, we had a storm detention issue. So, most people don't think storm detention. Have you ever been, you go to like Home Depot and all see the parking lot does this. Where are we putting the water? And in this one, if you look at how dense it is, we thought we'd use the park, but then we found out there's this big drainage ditch that runs along Arrowhead. And we went on Bended Knee and the city said, sure, drop all your water into that. That saved us a few $1 million. So as I go down my list, there's sewer, storm detention, the water. On this one, which we'll talk about in here, the water's plentiful. I can buy it. It's going to cost us millions of dollars, but there's water. There's some areas I would love to develop. I can't even develop because I can't get water. Or the water's moving land. Power, gas, and then in this one, just so you know, pressurized irrigation. We're still in negotiations with the city, but we're learning that if we can take, remember, this costs us a fortune. If I can take this water that's been cleaned. They're going to dump in a ditch that goes to Utah Lake that's completely cleaned from the sewer by federal code. If I can pump it back up in one of the parts, then I have to come in with less water. And water is expensive. So expensive that I have some deals where the water and the land costs are about the same. So in a desert, water is becoming more and more of an issue. In fact, if I could go back to my career, I would have still been a land developer, but early on I would have just started buying water. I could have made more money on buying water and just sitting on it than I ever could have found. And you'd be very good with it. Because water is, I mean, you have or you don't. We actually have a lot more land than we have water. So that's an issue. Any questions on this before I?
What is the time period from the time you tied it up till now?
I'm glad you asked. So let's answer that. I'm going to tell you the answer, but every time we look at one, let's answer that question. This one was a miracle. In fact, I'm going to tell you something I wasn't going to tell you. So these landowners, I get to the end, and I don't have it ready. I have all the money I need.
You get to the end of the year. You get to the end of the contract.
I get to the end of the contract, and I don't have it all the way done. So I start 2 months early. I go talk to the landowner, and I say, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to close on the exact day," and they're giving me that look. And by the way, you guys just judge me as you will. But I'm talking to two guys, and they've got chew, and it's running off their chin. And
They were a little cantankerous.
there is a lot to my job I like because I love a little bit of spice. And when I'm dealing with landowners, I get all kinds. And I'm not even finished telling him what I'm going to propose, and he calls me an effing idiot. He goes, "Do you think for a minute that we're going to extend this contract? You're blankety blank, blankety blank." And I said, "No, let's be calm." He said, "Get out of my house." Okay. So I'm like, okay, no, seriously, hear me out. I still can get hold of my this, and he starts telling me about mother cows. Any of you raised around cows? You ever heard the term mother cows? They have these cows and they're pregnant and they're going to have babies in this time frame. So he starts telling me how much it's going to cost him. And so I say to him, he says, "It's going to cost me $500,000 if you screw me up." I said, "Okay." I'm dancing. I say, "How about if I raise the price of it from $12 million to $12.5? So I'll cover the mother cow issue, but you have to give me this much more time." And he goes, "If the money's here next week and it's applicable, non-refundable, I want it in my effing account." Okay? I'm sitting there going, okay, I've got a lot of risk. I'm into this now. How much rent? About $1 million and a half. I said, okay. Okay, so, it's like I'm playing poker and my life is what I'm gambling. So I feel. So we give him the money and we go to the city, and I tell the city, "We have got to get this done. No more messing around. You guys can just," I meet with the mayor, we have a few emergency meetings, we get it done, and we're getting ready to close, and the lender verifies that I have invested. So as a developer, there's a day I'm vested. That means I'm getting my density and I'm close, it's there, but it doesn't mean it's all nailed down. Final plat approval, then I'm done. I mean, I can pull a permit. So I got it vested, my lender comes in, and here's how we closed. This is important because I'm going to go back to how you guys can make money. So I brought in a lender, and we closed on this piece right here, and all the money was in escrow. And we put in $6 million cash. Okay? So me and my investors, which I'm telling you right now, I'm not like to act like I'm rich. That was the hardest part. Okay, so we had that piece. Then I have 1031 money, which I'll talk more about, but just so you get the gist. I have 1031 money that moves with me. Sometimes 4 and 5 times. So they 1031 into a project. I then use that as my construction staging. So I have attorneys at Curtin McConkie write this up so we don't break any rules. I lease the ground back from them, and then I purchase an option to buy it at a guaranteed price within a time frame. So I don't mess with their 1031. But this piece right here is 1031. So I have a good friend of ours, Gary and his son, they 1031 into it. They make about a 13 to 15% return, which is a lot better than they can make elsewhere. They've done it with me time and time again. Then I have another lender out of Denver, a huge one. He comes in and he takes everything else as cloud only close. I not only had to build that up, but I all had to fund at the same time. So they have the 1031 money, lender number one, lender number two, and our cash. A title nightmare.
My palms are sweating just thinking about the closing that happened.
It was, and this guy would call up and scream the effort at me, and I still had 10 days. He'd just start screaming at me and then hang up on me.
Well, it was kind of nice because there was a moment where we weren't quite ready, but we were communicating with the seller's title company, and I was able to put all that pressure on the seller's title company because there was 2 issues on title that they had
Please
not
tell what those issues are.
that they had not taken care of. One of them was a contract that they had signed with somebody else, first right of refusal on a portion of the ground, and they had recorded a lien against it with a company that was out of business, and the guys were gone, but it was still on title, so it was clouding title. Yeah,
Can I ask a question about that?
sure.
We're dealing with that right now. How do you fix that?
The way this one was fixed, because the company was gone and they couldn't find anybody to do it, is the seller and their underwriter indemnified us against any issues with that. So
That took
that's
3 weeks.
yeah, that took care of that one. The other one is they had allowed a cell tower company to put a lien against a portion of the property they were going to build a cell tower, and then they ended up not doing it, but it was still showing on title. So I was able to go to the title company and say, "How are you going to clear these issues?" And that really helped us.
So,
Made my palms sweat.
so I got to tell you, the agent and the title guy are key in what I do. But the reason Vanguard, who is from Vanguard? Just Sue. By the way, Sue, you love the song. My name's Sue.
It's actually one of my favorites.
It's one of mine too. It's good if you're a girl. Anyway, the title issues sink our ship. And so the reason Scott has our title is because I can't deal with average title companies. They probably do a good job elsewhere. I have to have a title company that literally gets in there, sometimes blood knee deep, and we go to battle, and a lot of times as attorneys, we have to solve the problem. There's usually enough dollars at stake that you get everyone's full attention, you negotiate, you do all kinds of things. Indemnifying is usually the last resort, and sometimes we put money aside, both sides, to if we have to buy them out or whatever, but that's huge. So on this one, when we closed last, what month, Brad? Last May. We thought we'd be under construction by now. We'll be under construction about 60 days. And the beautiful thing about our developments that we're trying to do, and think you got your agent cap on, is this road's going to come down here, ties into the single family, over, and it's going to do this loop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, 6 product types that are not competing. So the final thing I'm doing, just so you have this educated, I now have a lender, one lender here, one lender doing townhomes, one lender doing condos, and this is being sold. So step 1 in the financing is just close. Step 2 is to bring in affordable financing. We get projects that have enough margin, so I'm going to give you the margins picture. So here's what usually happens. An agent brings me a project, I've talked to the seller, they want the listing, and they've already made the biggest mistake. They told the landowner whatever they had to tell them to get them to do a listing, and they come back to me and I go, great piece, you're paying way too much, I can't make the numbers work. The agent says to me, how come? It's a great piece. And I say, well, who are my customers? DR Horton, Edge, Ivory, you just go through all those big guys, Century, Fieldstone. I can do the math, I do it every day. Here's what they're selling townhomes for. Construction costs, permits, water, land, agents, 6% commission to sell it. Is there enough left for them to do that and carry the interest? No, I can't buy your piece. So what I tell my internal agents, you find a great piece, don't get the landowners excited to say, I might be able to sell it. Come back to me and I'll tell you what we can pay for it. Because here's our philosophy. We need everyone to make a buck. The landowner, the agent, the developer, the builder, and the homeowner has to get a fair price. If we can't do that, then we just can't do it, right? That's why certain people get deals done and others don't. I can tell you in a few minutes. I look at the zone. I can tell you in a few minutes what I can pay for a piece, and I'm not trying to be greedy. To me, I get volume, and so that's the other thing. So if you have pieces like this, and you're going to talk to a builder developer, go talk to them and ask them what they can legitimately pay, and then talk to the landowner and educate them. Because I have found I've had several deals where it's going awry, and I have bring in the seller and I say, let me explain this. I get the whiteboard and I show them. And they've been, heck no, and they move to okay. Because I tell them, the price you want, you'll get it if you wait 10 more years. I show them, here's what land has done in home prices. You want to wait 10 years? And then I show them time value of money. So the point is, education is what all of us do, right? So anyway, any questions before we move on? Oh.
So, density. A lot of people want to build townhomes. They want greater density, and so, like you said, none of the cities want to zone that. For the most part, you're not going to find the density just sitting there ready for you to do it, or it's going to be gone already. How do you know when it's worth going after this piece of ground and trying to get greater density that's already zoned?
So I'm looking around the room, rough ages, we're all about close, some older, some younger. If you go back to
And sorry to the ones in the back that are so young.
I'm trying to be politically correct and white, but if you go back, our world's changed, right? So here's what I wanted. I wanted, my first house is an American fork. I paid $67,000 for it. And I had this, no landscaping. It was a new house. The couple got divorced. They lost the house. I didn't know anything. I was a student, starting development stuff. Anyway, put in an offer. I got the house, but it was everything I wanted. I had a big backyard. My dad had a garden. I figured I needed a garden. It was what I wanted, right? Now fast forward. We use the word millennials, but if you're born after 94, anyone here after 94, I don't think so. Your Generation Z, is that what they're called? I always mess this up. So Zs are just like millennials, but more so. In other words, think of your kids. My oldest, who's 27, remembers us having a landline in the house, and he remembers the phone that you can push the buttons and it's connected to the wall. My youngest remembers it sitting there, but we never used it. Okay? He's 19. The point is, this new generation is different than any other generation because of this. They think different than us. If you go back from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, a little bit of change happened in comparison. Then all of a sudden, everything changed. So they think different than us. They buy their food. I'm sitting with my son-in-law, and he said to his wife, my daughter, when are we eating dinner? She says, we're eating at 6. Well, I'm hungry. Just go see what's in the fridge. I didn't pay attention. He orders, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door. 20 minutes later, somebody brought him a rice bowl. And I was like, tell me what just happened. So, I mean, I think I'm in touch. I'm not in touch with any of that stuff. We do focus groups, and I listen to them, and I'm like right now going, okay, if you said to me, what do I want? They want exactly opposite of what I want. So my daughter, I take her down to the vineyard, and I say, okay, I'm going to show you all the stuff down here, but I'm telling you right now, this is your best buy. And it was a road with a little private driveway and like 6 houses off it. Small lot, but she had her own home, right? I show her, I look at the price, we look at everything. I said, what did you like? And she doesn't want to, she's my daughter. She wants to not offend me. And she goes, I like the townhomes. And I said, which one? She goes, the 3-story one. I said, okay, I'm thinking like me. Your bedroom's on the 3rd floor. The garage, you forget your car keys. You gotta go 2 flights of stairs back down. She goes, yeah, my niece don't hurt me. So right then I went, okay, don't be a dad, okay? Be a developer for a minute. I said, tell me why you like it. She has a little boy. She goes, did you see when we were there, all the moms at the pool? Okay, here's me. I don't want a subscription. I don't want to pay fees. I don't want a stupid pool. That's me. She can't wait to sit with the moms at the pool. I said, what about a backyard? She goes, Jacob hates her. Okay? So my point to you is, this has happened. The cities are us. City councils are us. Our age group. They're not them. And so the state has just recently passed a law that if the cities want their allocation for roads, because each city gets an allocation for roads, they have to show their plan and they're following to add affordable housing. So they finally have a noose around their neck and they tied it up just where they can fill it. And they're saying, you want this money? You've got to do affordable housing. Because at the state level, they're seeing that we have an issue. That housing has gone up in price so much that our educated and professional young people can't afford any of this. And so, once again, sit in a room and say, let's solve the problem. Then you add that they're different than us. They want a townhome. And when they get a house, they don't want the yard. If they want to, they want someone else to do it. So even when they move up, they don't enjoy yard work as a whole. I'm doing generalizations. I still like doing yard work.
And I don't know if that really answered your question, Trent, but there is no magic wand to wave over and say, okay, we know the city's going to do this. We know the city's going to do that.
But the trick is, we as developers have to figure out how to get it done. And we have 7,000 units. And out of our 7,000 units, how many of them are attached? I haven't done the math on that. The majority of them are attached. So we have found a way to do that, and it's taken. So the comment right here, this took 2 years. And I am so happy. When I started, I could get development done in 90, 120 days. I can't even come close to that now.
You mentioned kind of your business model. In the past, you would normally sell everything once you get to this point. Is that right?
For the most part, yeah.
So this is a new kind of model.
Whenever we did condos, we usually kept those because they were so lucrative. Yeah, we've changed since always. We've changed what we do into bigger master plan communities, and now we're cherry picking what we want to do. Let's go to the next slide. I can.
I have a question. What made you change your thinking on taking this one and actually building it out and everything else, especially about business?
Okay. So, good question. So I get people come to me and they say, want to buy it, and they tell me what they want to do on a takedown schedule. So let's have builder, let's use Edge. I love Edge. I know those guys for years. We'll close on 150 condos at this price, and then we'll take down 50 a year. So I run the numbers and I go, okay, so I do a little checking.
When you say take down, what do you mean?
They'll close on.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm using development terms. They'll actually close on 150, which is 15 buildings, the pads, right? And then I have to usually wait 2 years and then another 50 a year. Well, 500, do the math, it's years, right? So then I go and I have some friends that sell for Edge, that sell condos, and I say, hey, call them up, take them to lunch. How many condos do you guys selling? They rattle off numbers. Yeah, we're selling, 12 to 20 a month. So I do the math and I go, okay, so I'm financing. Now as a developer, that's kind of my job. But I go, I can build them and sell them too. So then I look at what I call the land profit, which is what I make. And then I look what they're selling and I do the math backwards and I go, okay, I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to start building condos. So that's my model. So if you have a product and it's multifamily, or I can make multifamily, then I'm a buyer. I'll entitle them. And what we're best at, because I'll tell you this, these builders are amazing. I know we have customers that complain, but let's look at Ivory. Ivory, Edge, and D.R. Horton will all do over 1,000 units this year. There's 365 days, there's 200 some odd when you take out holidays and weekends. Shoot me. I mean, when I sell my people, take it, right? I can't imagine digging 1,000 holes. I mean, just think of what they do. Think of the closings. Think of what. So, as I hear people complain about them, I have to say, I applaud what they're doing because it's so hard. But they're doing affordable housing. So we decided to jump in and we're going to build a certain amount. And we partner with a builder that can build 500 to 1,000 a year. And you guys don't know this person, this group yet, but you will shortly because we bring these on. You'll end up buying stuff from us, we hope. But we're still selling off a lot. And I will show you kind of what we're selling off because you might have buyers. So I'll kind of show you. That one we did there. Now on this one, I don't want to bore you with the same stuff, but I want you to see the pattern. So this is the Heber market. Now, I left a few $1 million in Heber in 2009 and a few lawsuits. So I kind of have that feeling about Heber. Most people like me had that feeling. They finally got to scar tissue and ready to buy Heber. How many of you sold anything in Heber?
I live there.
You live there.
I do.
So everyone in Heber hates me.
Oh, I haven't heard. I know.
Come on, the city council meeting.
I wasn't aware of his reputation.
They love me in every community but Heber. But anyway, we'll talk about that too. So I told you earlier, we had one piece we tied up, but here's what's magic about Heber. It's the greatest place to live around here. And you might not like Heber, but most people love, they get there, they like, if they could live there, they would. It doesn't work with commute. So when you start looking at Salt Lake County and Utah County people, you have two arteries going down. 72% of the people in Heber don't work in Heber. It's unique, right? They don't even, they work on the Wasatch Front. So you have, were you born there in Heber?
Oh no, I'm from Salt Lake. That's why this is my own.
Okay, you're perfect because the people who were born there hate me the most. So Heber knows they need affordable housing, and affordable housing in Heber is crazy. There's 12 plexes going in there. They're 240 by 250 for a 13 square foot thing, and then as you head out of Heber and go towards Jordanelle, there are townhomes 15 to 2,000 square feet going for 650 to 850. It's crazy. So if you work at Les Schwab's in Heber, or if you work at AutoZone or a school teacher, you can't. So when I first started this, I met with the chief of police, who's a great guy, and he had 3 officers. So in Heber, they have 6 months to live in Heber. They don't have to buy; they can rent. And the people had homes, and so they were trying to buy homes. They have agents representing them. What happens? They put in an offer, and there's 3 offers on a ridiculously small home that needs a lot of work, and it's a cop, so he can't do 20 grand more than the sales price. He doesn't have. So the bottom line is they have an issue up there. So you have this tug and pull of what's going on. So I came in there, and I don't want to get into too many details because we're going to go all day. This one's taken us 4 years. I'm going to start with that. 4 years and 3.5 lawsuits. Okay? Now here's my rule. I've been doing this for over 30 years. I've never filed a lawsuit with the city yet. I work with cities. In Heber, they don't follow their own laws. I filed a lawsuit because they were breaking their own laws and literally kicking the crap out of me. I had no choice. And I broke my rule of no lawsuits, work it out. The way I work it out is they said, get out of here, and then we worked out. So we started, now let me tell you this piece really quick. We have a FEMA pledge, which I'm playing right here, because this is
Because they don't want affordable housing? Is that
So here's what they want. They're conflicted, and I'll get into that in a minute. They want affordable housing. They don't want affordable housing. It's kind of like when you're sitting there. They just don't want it to look like affordable housing. And what's funny is you drive down the streets of Heber, the old town, it looks like every other old town. And there's just not enough of it. But they don't want, they say things, in fact, that's what I'll tell you. They said things in public meetings that blow your mind. Like, lawsuit, you can't say that, you're a public official. So, but they want to keep the feel, and I get it, because you get this. Everyone that moves to Heber moves there because they love it, and then they don't want it to change. So what they've done, and this is what I tried to tell them, they've already protected with the agricultural area. Heber can never really change. Now, the areas that it can change, it's boxed in. This area, look out the window. I mean, this used to be farms. They all went away. In Heber, they put protective zones so it's going to stay agricultural. So they've already preserved things. They just want to fight, which I'll talk about more in a second. But on this piece, which I'll show you more, we have the hospital that's over here. We have FEMA floodplain. We have the Forest Service here, which is a boneyard. This thing looks horrible. And then I have this is kind of like storage stuff, and an actual sawmill. The property's named Sawmill because if you go back 100 years, there was a big sawmill, and it was the main industry of the town. So the city wanted us to name it Sawmill, and we were happy with that. So on the due diligence, thank you, Scott. So we had access road with IGA deal with a fight with the city, which I'll call density. We had annexation from the county, floodplain. There was a 6-month moratorium years ago. The city comes in and they're having a nervous breakdown, and by state law they can put a moratorium that we freeze everything. We're not going to entitle anything, so we don't have to do it while we get our legs underneath us. It's a good tool, and the reason the state puts 6 months, there's Heber, if the other way, they do a 10-year.
Oh, man.
They just go, 10 years we're thinking. Sorry, you can tell I have
Some trauma.
Yeah. Loss and opposition we'll talk about. Code-based. So they proved this thing, and then the residents got mad at the city because they didn't like the zone. They essentially rescinded and pulled the zone out. Forest Service land, a development agreement that was painful. There's one city council member that wanted me to agree to having electric lawnmowers, electric weed eaters, and no combustion engines on the site. Can you imagine getting a development agreement with someone who's thinking like that? I was like, great. When Tesla makes one, they can mow more than 10 feet. We're a huge development. Sawmill Boulevard we'll talk about, and then we had to do a 6-foot berm around one side, and then water issues. This is one of our losses. The city tried to stop us by not signing the agreement with the water, which is, I don't want to get into water, but the city's in a water company, and by just not voting, they stopped us converting our water shares, which was illegal. That was a 6-month lawsuit. The city attorney told them, guys, you're going to get us in a lot of trouble. Keith keeps being nice. You're literally putting a knife to our jugular vein and Keith's hand on. Quit being idiots. So I said 3.5 because I've got another one right now we have the letter written and we're sending it because in Heber they have open-ended inspection fees. Every other city has set inspection fees. In other words, I could pay $50,000 a unit for if they want. They could just keep milking me. But listen, I'm going to try not to beat up people too much. Okay, so these were the issues, and as we did it, let's go to the next slide.
No, you're doing great. I'm gonna go right to the map, so.
Okay. Okay, so long story short, this is pretty much our mix that we got. We put, because IHC is right here, we have 2 big medical buildings there, 21,000 square feet each. The city really wanted that. They wanted to bring in a better group of doctors. Not better, more doctors. Vernal, a lot of people go to Heber, that's their area. And so I was all for that. I love that. Then we did townhomes here and here. And these townhomes are different. Some of them, the code reads you can run a business out. So they're 3-story, so you have garages in the back, and you can actually have a title company, you can have a mortgage company, you can do hair, cats, dog grooming, whatever on the front. With others, it's a small percent that will do that. But here's what else they did. To help affordable housing, we negotiated a door to a room. So you have your garage, you have your door that goes upstairs to the main living, and there's a side door. It's a basically 500 square foot studio apartment. Have any of you ever lived in a studio apartment? Okay. How was it all one room? Pretty much, other than the bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay, I did too. At first I thought, ooh, this is weird, and then I loved it. Maybe it's a guy thing, but there's a bed, and a TV, and a little place to eat, and the kitchen, the fridge is about this tall, but it's for basically single or married people that have kids. It's the cheapest rent you can find. It's $500-600. Back to affordable housing. If you're a police officer and you buy a townhome, you can, I think it's about 70% of the rent you can put towards the mortgage. So it was a tool for us to help make it more affordable. On top of that, this is where I point out something that you guys need to think about. How many of you know about FIG? Someone tell us what FIG is.
They build, it's Fourplex Investment Group, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
They build fourplexes and sell them and then manage the property management.
Yeah, so agents
Investment.
I thought so. Sam used to work with him.
Okay, so as a developer, I'm always studying others. And all of a sudden on Construction Monitor, this group pops up, and I don't know from Adam, but they're selling hundreds, almost 1,000 units. I investigate, I found FIG. So FIG, it's income producing. It's mainly about 5.5 to 6% cap. Yeah, so you buy it, it's an income property, but they're the builder and the developer. They do home buying. They try and buy from me, but I never sell to them because they want it for free. So whenever they do stuff, I know the margins. They make really good margins. But you guys have clients and neighbors and friends, maybe not selling the house, but looking for an income property. I know agents that have made a ton of money changing their model and going after people. Like in where I live, I have 3 dentist friends, a handful of doctors, aged people. They have a little bit of money. They're looking for something to retire on. They buy it, 15 years later, it's paid off. They do a 15-year mortgage. FIG has sold so many, over the last years, thousands. So what we've done is we've made these units to where you have basically 2 rentals. So if you buy it as an income property, you're getting a higher return on your investment because you're renting the upstairs for 18 to 2,000, the bottom for 5. Whereas if it was just another room in the place, you'd just be getting 18 to 2,000.
So it's zoned that way.
It's zoned that way, and that I'm talking about because that was a coup.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It is fantastic. I'm so excited.
Say that again. Sorry.
So think of your normal 3-story townhome. The
So
first,
it's a legal duplex, really.
yes. I wouldn't say it that way, but I'll say yes. It's not. You can rent 2 people, 2 different groups, right?
Right.
So I said, and this is what's going to happen. You could buy this as, and I'm going to use this as a single person or a young couple, and live in the first apartment right off the top.
No,
I would too. And then you have a baby, and you time it, they're a rental agreement, you kick them, you move upstairs, you rent out the bottom. If you figure divorced people, single people, whatever, there's a need for this. And in Park City, you have a lot of workers that would love this because it's cheap and it's close. So that's been good, but I want to go back to the income producing. So everybody wants income producing assets. The question is, are they ready to buy? So as agents, that's something you guys can do and bring to us. I'm watching the competition. So take FIG, take Edge. Edge sells 3 out of 10 to investors every 10 points. There's a waiting list. I don't know if you knew that. So let's say Scott wants to buy a condo. He puts his name on the list. Edge will put him on there, and then he bids against everybody. So on those 3, they're making more than ask price. Great for commissions, and those guys aren't your normal buyers. They're putting down 25%. They close their eyes. They're FIG guys. The FIG buyer intrigues me.
Sold 40 of those on those houses.
Okay, we need to talk. You're my friend now. You are my friend.
I was this close to buying one of those, but the cash flow is not good enough. One of yours, I'd buy a ton of them.
Okay, so let's address that. Let's get one on the table. None of these are great cash flow. Ours will be a little better. But the point is, I'm a developer, I take risks, I want big returns, right? That's my nature. I have no interest in buying any of these. Now, I'm a developer, so I look to Brad. We look at it and we go, okay, how much equity? Okay, we'll keep a few because we're not making 5.5% return. We're making much better. But there's a whole group of people, they're your neighbors, that would love to buy these. And they're, to your point, tell us how you sold those. Who are your buyers?
Out of the spirit of influence, I was going to say as an agent, though, my income doubled when I started focusing on investment.
There was 2 things I wanted to get out of this today. That was the first one. Is that if you're sitting there waiting for a listing to come in, right? That's tough. And you slowly build your book. If you're selling income, you got a list of people you already know. Hey, you got to look at this. You'd be shocked who buys stuff. Were you shocked? I'm shocked. I have my neighbors come and tell me what they're buying, and I want to turn inside out because I'm like, that's not a great deal, but you're so happy. I'm like, they basically say, I own something, and in 15 years, with rent going up and me paying it down, it'll turn into something. That is a true statement. You have to have that mentality.
The way when I bought my investment property, there's not a lot of cash flow, but I was like, it's like a bank. I have money in the bank and make nothing. Or I can just, it's a 4-6. I'm like, okay, well, I'll put it in this and I'll just let it.
So what you're saying is it's a revolution. People are taking that mentality on because they've gone decades and they don't have a lot to show for their income. But if they do this, force saving, whatever you want to call it, it does happen. So as developers, we have our models. And we say, we sell this many. And then I have agents that say to me, that's how much we can sell you, right, to the average person. Now add the investors. So here's the other thing. So let's say this, I can't see well, that's like a class. There's a 5-plex. Okay, 5-plex. 5 buyers or one guy. There's a lot of those one guys. There's people, their parents died at 1031, they inheritance. They put down a few $100,000, they leverage it all up. It barely cash flows. They don't care. Why? They're 45. They say I'm 45 to 60. Play the math, whatever. They're 50, at 65. But one day, it's not going to cash flow, but it's awesome. So I just tell you that that's a big thing, and it's the trend, and it's what's driving us. And millennials and Zers they love to rent longer. So I kept thinking, when's this going to end? Heber, there's a huge room, there's a lot of room for that.
You're fine.
Well, let's be honest, it's a lot better than forced savings because it's not your money going into the bank, it's the venture's money going into your pocket.
We need him to be our poster child. It's true. Someone else is making the payment, and you're getting the appreciation, you're depreciating your taxes.
Yep.
It is, listen, I can show you a model, and it's just flat out numbers. It's a great deal. In other words, and speaking, this is a great thing to sell to people that aren't even your customers. In other words, everybody who has a heartbeat in a job is a customer on this, right? And if you talk to them, maybe they're not, but their dad is, or their brother. It's funny how these things go. I've watched this trend, and we're selling more and more of those. In fact, we have some that Airbnb until the city says no. So they'll like keep 4 out of the 5 and stay around, and then they play the game with the Airbnb, and they're doing well. In fact, the Airbnbs, my son-in-law and my daughter, he plays baseball, and so they're gone, and they can't do an 8-month lease. So the Airbnb, and they're like, they're doing every bit as much doing that as they are on the other.
I don't know how you're calling me, but you're calling me.
I'm gonna put number in this because I didn't show it. Might be the office. It's okay. That's awesome. Okay, because of time, let's go to the second piece. You can change screens too.
How much are those units selling for will they?
In Heber,
Yeah.
I'm going to start with Salem. Condos in Salem are going to be the low 200s, and the townhomes are going to be 250, 270. And so I think that they cash flow from an investor side probably better than others because they price for more than that. So we're trying to be careful. In Heber, strangely enough, the townhomes are crazy valuable because there's investment market, you get higher rent. We're going to be high 3s, low 4s for that same income. The condos are going to be $249.9 starting out, and the condos are not bad. We have to keep our FHA, so we're going to follow Edges 3. They can go 4, but they don't. They want to stay away from danger, so they're doing the 3. Which once again, I really like Edge. I love how they think. That's next. Okay, so I'm going to let Scott do this one, but I'm going to say this. The other area that you guys can do very well, and we're working with this, is we manage about $5 or $6 million worth of 1031. Most of it's going well. We have a few that are not going as well, but they still get paid. But we use 1031 all the time, and what we do is the 1031 buyer, 1031s into usually a back phase. We use that as our staging, so we lease the ground from them, as I mentioned. And then, about month 18, we pay them back, we buy the piece back from them, because we move into that phase, and then they 1031 to another one of our projects. They usually like it. The one thing I'll say, and then I'll answer that question is, here's where it gets a little interesting, is that from an agent standpoint, and I want this to sink in, that you usually, if they move, you get another commission. So I have one with Trent, and we put him in some lots that are not as good as we would have liked. I met with him the other day. We're moving him into some of our lots because he's a builder. So when that happens, Trent would get another commission. So, every 18, 24 months, you start building a repeat on commission as long as they're happy. They make a much better return because they're not taking on a ton of risk, but they don't have a structure like a building. They're moving their 1031 raw land. We make sure there's plenty of value, but they make a bigger return, and then they usually move with us. And when they do that, they step up. Meaning, let's use $1 million. It's $1 million 1031. They get some cash flow from the lease, but when they sell to us, they might sell it to $1.1 million. So the 1031 from $1 million to $1.1 million. So they do this mushrooming. We have one guy that's at about $2 million, $3 million. So that's good. Question?
Debt, is there any debt on the land? Or is
So the first thing we do is we ask them, tell us about your 1031. We have figured out how to do the debt. We prefer no debt, but if they have debt, we match the debt. It's, and once again, let me tell you what we do. We put it in a one sheet, or we send it to the attorney. He sends us back, says, here's how we're going to do it. Their counsel looks at it. Both attorneys talk. We put it together, and we close. So the biggest thing is this, and my attorney flat out looked at me and says, you script their 1031, you're paying the taxes. So I pay a little bit on legals to make sure I don't script their 1031, and we don't bend rules. We follow the rules on 1031 with exactness. So if you have 1031 money, at least come and see us. We're going to start a division that deals with 1031 and does 1031 counseling, but also has product. So you guys would make at least a 3% commission until they get off the train.
So with the 1031, if they have a home or something like that, they have a depreciable asset where they go with you, land's non-depreciable.
Good point. So they make 12 to 15%. They take that into it, and what they do is they usually move 3 or 4 times with us, and then they roll into something. And we do storage units, so sometimes they'll roll into 4plexes. So they're trying to grow their wealth. We'll have one client that I call really old that's doing this with us. Most people are middle-aged to do this. This guy he told us his birthday. 84. I keep waiting for him to tell us he's done. He's not done. He thinks he's 17. But 84, I'm not going to be doing that. My point is, this.
So your 1031s, do they have to be accredited investors or no?
So it's not a securities, and because of the nature of their size, they almost all are by the size of their investment. But what we do is we have them come in, they literally own the ground. We do not bend any rules. So here's the average deal. Let's say they make 5 to 7% cash on cash, so an annualized that's a monthly payment. And then they usually get a 10% bump. So once again, so on that one you make like 16, 17%. So you get like a 10% bump when you move to the next one. I'm getting the ground at usually 50% or less of appraised value. So when they come in, they're very well protected. So they're usually 70% or less as far as value. And then they get the income and the other, and then I just pay commissions every.
Is there a minimum amount on your 1031? That's probably something you should talk about.
Well, yeah, we don't want. We can't use the small dollars. So anything over $250,000, we'd probably look at. But I'd actually say $500,000. I don't know. It's basically $500,000. Perfect guy's $1 million, $2 million, family, he or she, whatever. But 1031 money, we do it. And then get this: if that's not good for them, then we move them into one of our units. So that's good. Any questions before I turn? I'm gonna have Scott go through this real quick.
Do you current availability between us?
For 1031? Yes.
Do 4 million?
4 million 1031? Yes. I have to look at the map, but between Heber or Salem is or maybe, and that depends on the timing. Those would probably be the 2 ones. In fact, I might not sell something to D.R. Horton if I had the 1031. Because D.R. Horton's bought D.R. Horton might buy some of our lots. Scott.
Okay. One of the things we wanted to go over, and this isn't a perfect scenario, but one of the things that might help you manage the expectations of sellers that you actually come across is if you're able to kind of have a model to go off of when you're evaluating the property. The biggest mistake you can make right off the bat, and Heath has already talked about it, is when they think their property is worth a great deal more than it is. This one is, it's an awesome project. There was a lot of factors that took into account, and so you're going to see some bumps as we talk about the calculations. But you kind of have to back into a number. You kind of have to make some assumptions. You kind of have to look at some things, and I'm making some assumptions and hoping that I know you guys are all qualified agents, and you know how to look up zoning maps. You know how to look up city plans and see what the zones call for, the densities and that kind of stuff, and then make your assumptions from there. This property is in Provo. It was zoned light industrial, and it's stuck between two existing storage units. One was being built brand new, and the other one is quite old. And the people owned this, talking about title issues, their family has owned it since 1908. And so the legal description was rods and chains. It's not even, it's very, very old, which brought up some title issues which we've had to resolve. And so when we looked at it, this is the initial evaluation which we I think we closed in the summer of 17, right? So, and I brought this project to Heath, so I've been involved from the very beginning. So I'm going to say we, but remember I'm the title guy, not the developer. And this is the piece that we bought, or wanted to look at. And it was zoned for light industrial. We thought about doing storage units. And the city said absolutely not. So they wanted something else in there, and that's a whole different conversation. They wanted us to do townhomes. And so I'm thinking about the price that we're going to give to the seller. There's a lot of stuff that I have to look at, and I have to back into it. And I do a lot of this for agents and other people. I get phone calls all the time. Hey, Scott, what do you think about this? And sometimes I don't know, and sometimes I can help you and answer questions. The size is 4.76 acres. We wanted to do medium density. That's what the city suggested. And when you look at the zoning allowances for medium density at any city, just know that you're never going to get the highest one. It'll say between 12 and 20 or 15 and whatever. You're never going to get this one. Their medium density is up to 30 units per acre. That's a lot of units per acre. And so you're not going to get that. But, and then the one thing that's unique to Provo, as you probably are aware of, they have a ton of professionals, single professionals that they're not married, they're working, they're teachers, they're realtors, they're loan officers, and they have no place to live. They've created some real issues there. So they wanted us to do something that kind of fit that. But as we're looking at this property, one of the requirements they also is a parking stall for every bedroom, and which is even more than you normally need because that's 4 parking stalls per unit, and then they have to add 0.25 for their overages and gas and kind of stuff. So I'm going to go over here and look at the numbers. If we had to do, 30 units an acre is 142 units, which we'd never get on there. 35 fourplexes, it would be almost 630 parking stalls. The entire thing would be work. So that was never going to work. You just have to use a little bit of common sense. There was an issue because we had no rear access. So this was not available. This is State Street. It goes through Provo. South Provo is where it's at. So we did have that. And this is just kind of a general rule. When you don't have in and out, you only have one in and one out, unless I'm mistaken, and you guys can correct me. Usually cities kind of cap it off at about 30 units. Some are different, but they usually cap off 30 units is all you're going to get unless you have another road.
Is that because of fire codes?
Yeah. And so, okay, so I'm looking at this, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, now I'm going to do 30, I'm going to go one in. That's going to be 34 parking stalls. It's way different. So that gives me a number to go off of, okay? Starting at the 30 units. My estimated sales price at the time in 2017 was $300,000, and people at that time were going, I don't know if you're going to get that for those. And I'll show you on the next slide what they're actually probably going to sell for based on research Heath and Brad have done. So that's 1.2 a fourplex. This is the size. They're quite large because each room is basically like a master. They have their own bathroom. Each room is like a master suite. They have a bathroom and a bedroom. You can put a king-size bed in there and a couch. And, I mean, they're really big. And then there's some shared living space. So at the time, the builder we were talking to said, I can do that for the cost, which would be about $80 a square foot. So that gets us to 704, and then you got to have 10% for the builder profit and marketing, which is the realtor's 6.5% is kind of the number I use for title and real estate. So that's the total cost of the building, 845.9. The sales price is there. You take that off. That's $354 a building, or it comes down to about $88,000 a unit. This is all the way to the end, because there's certain bumps you got to think about. There's raw ground, and when he says he gets it at 50% value, he gets it at that value because of his entitlement. He doesn't buy it. He doesn't buy it at that point because nobody would sell that to him, right? He makes the money in the entitlements, so that when he goes to his 1031, all this stuff is done, and the value is bumped up dramatically, and that's where he's at. So this is all the costs: $35,000 per unit for your development costs. That even may be a little low, to be honest. Things have changed a little bit. That's topo, soil, city fees, building permits, engineers, all the stuff that has to go into that. So you take $35,000 a unit out, and we're now down to this much in profit from here to here. And you got to take out money from the developer to actually make money. So far, this is all cost. So we take out and it can go up and down. This one's different, but 20 to 30% is kind of where they like to be, because there is a great amount of risk and carrying costs and interest. And we talked about all those title issues. Everyone can blow up the deal, so it's got to be worth it, or they're just not going to do it. I was talking to a guy down in Maple that wanted to sell me a thing. When I ran all the numbers, the developer would make about $80,000 after investing $1.4 million. And that guy thought that was amazing. It's $80,000. Okay, just isn't going to happen. There's got to be a little bit of a chunk in there for them to make money. So when we take that out, that gets us close to the $30,000 to $34,000 a unit in land cost, and this is about what the property is worth. That gives you a bottom line. And we picked up this piece for $881. Was that the purchase price? $881. And then they started going to work. So now I'm going to show you where it's at. And I told you it was a great, great deal. But there were some issues they had to solve. There was a railroad easement, so they needed out the back to really maximize this. They needed out the back, so they went to this person owned it. They purchased this. That cost them $250,000 to buy the out. So just the 1.5 acre piece was a quarter of the cost of the 4 acre piece, so about the same price. So they solved that problem. We had to go through multiple neighborhood chair and focus groups, and that's where we learned so much about what they wanted in their bathroom and how they wanted to live and what they wanted to do. And we had multiple boundary line problems that I told you about because of the rods and chains issues. This was actually moved down to here, and there was a big 20-foot gap on top that we had to solve, and I'm going to that. The recorder helped us. And at the very end, this is actually a little bit old. This moved down here because there's a big power line that comes right through there. We had to keep an easement in place for them. So those are all the things they overcame. This is where it sits now.
Question.
Yeah.
Predatory neighbors. What was that?
So the people up here, I'm not tall, barrier story, just who they are, and they're not. They were just predatory in the way that they wanted to buy the property themselves. So they anytime they could cause an issue along the way, they did. You'll see this little cutout here. There's a house there. They thought by buying that house, and they paid cash for it, way more than it's worth, in my opinion. They would stop the whole thing, and then they could go back and buy the ground from the owners. Nice. She was like 85-year-old lady. She's really sweet. And then when they were building their no, she was really nice. She was really, the Petrofesses was really nice. These guys, yeah, if I was to use the word sweet, would be sarcastic. And then when they did their construction, they brought up 8 or 10 feet of filter, and 20, 30 feet of it was coming onto the property here. And they refused to retain it. We had to get this, we didn't. The Petrofesses got the city involved, and we kind of red tagged it, and forced them to build a big fence there, which cost them about $375,000. $375,000 fence they had to build there. So when Heath and Brad went to get their final approvals, they showed up and tried to force the city to make Heath and Brad pay for half the fence. And that didn't go well for them either. So, and it's because they kind of have a prior reputation with the city. And so the city basically said, if I'm not mistaken, well, you built the wrong kind of fence. It was a wrought iron fence, and they want a prefab. So if you tear it down and build a new fence, we'll maybe make the guy pay half of it, or you can just leave it. So they left it. It was kind of funny. So if we look at it now, this is what they're going to sell for. And I know, and I actually think from talking with Heath and some of their stuff that they may actually increase the price a little bit based on the cap rates and stuff they're going to come out of there. There's a new medical school going in the Provo East Bay area. There's a ton of demand. So this is the size of the unit. The price has gone up to build with the profits and everything. And now if we go through the numbers, so this is the cost, sales price. There's your profitability. But you still, what I want to show you here is the step-ups, okay? Because there's $150,000 per unit in profit, but there's a difference between raw ground profit and paper profit and finished product profit, right? So, and most developers look for that 20 to 25, sometimes 30% value in each step. So that way, if he wants to sell it at paper, he can. He's going to make a little bit of money in paper. If he finishes the lot and puts all the improvements in, there's another bump because there's extra costs. So, but there's still another bump, so he can make more money there as well. And this is where, so this is where I'm showing you that value on the 1031. That's the value of their land as it is right now, entitled. Nothing's on it, but it's worth $2.5 million because of all the work that they put into it. And they got it for 50% of the value, exactly what Heath said. They got it for about 1.1. And so I show you this, but managing sellers' expectations is so hard. And you have to be willing to have that hard conversation right off the bat and say, I'm sorry, it's not worth that. Or you don't have to be maybe that blunt, but let me look into it and get back to you. But you don't want to make the mistake of telling them something that you can't validate. And you know, a lot of sellers look at their property and, well, it's 4 acres and you're going to get a 1/4 acre lots, which means it's 16 lots on there. And you're selling those lots for $160,000 a piece. So my land's worth a lot of money. And they don't understand all that goes into it and the cost. So Heath and Brad, as I've watched him and learned, they're spending money the minute it goes under contract. And it's significant. Some of it's not too bad, appraisals. But the appraisal on this one was $4,500 or something like that. It's not like a house appraisal. They did a $30,000 traffic study. They did all the soils reports and everything that they put into this. And then the architects and the engineers, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And a lot of times they're spending that before they even close. So that's why these margins have to exist, because sometimes they're going to get down the road and the deal's going to fall apart because of a title issue, and then they're just out that money. So these profit margins have to exist. So on the one that he does lose, he can help make it up on the other one. All right, that was fast. Any questions on what I've just gone over? And I can sit down and talk with anybody about going over in more detail if you would like.
Thanks, Scott. I was going to point out one other thing and then questions. One of the other things, if you have a land owners wanting to sell, oftentimes to get them what they want, if they want, we'll allow them to stay in the deal, do some carryback or something. So if they want to stand for some of the profits, and once again, this is not everyone's appetite, it gets suspicious, but there's ways to do that. Most of the time they win bigger. Most of the time it's a lot of different personalities. But if they do, they basically stay in with us. We go to the bank, we borrow, we take care of everything. But then they get a guaranteed amount per unit as it closes, and then part of the profit. So it's not a bad way to go. if they want to do that. But once again, another tool for you as you're thinking about this. On the investment side, I would look at that and on the 1031 as well. We've got one here. But I guarantee, this is my thought. Every one of you will have 1031 bounce into your world, and every one of you has people that are looking for investment properties. It's kind of just the way it is. So if you're thinking that way and you have it, then call Scott or myself, probably Scott, and we can help you through that. Because for you, if it works for them, it usually works again and again and again. And so they really enjoy it. And then they can end in something, whatever they want, but they can end in something that's more traditional, income producing. It's nice, but it builds wealth if they're at that point in life. Questions?
Like you had said, you have to talk to them because you know the value of the land. I just know somebody who wants to buy some, sell some land.
Okay.
So how do I secure my position and introduce them to you?
Awesome. So I'm going to tell you what I think, and you guys, this is your world. Usually what happens is someone like yourself says, hey, I have a client, here's the piece, it's roughly this. They tell me enough that I know. But they're scared I'm going to go around them, right? So what they say is, it's in Draper, it's 30 acres. Okay, I get it. If it works, what's a fair commission? We agree, they send some form, I sign an agreement. Then they come and show me. I prefer that because, no offense, but I don't want anyone to make representation. So at that point, usually they're the ones paying, right? The commission. In this case, I just said I'll pay a commission. That's the right one. What I try and do is get you to say, I'm saying something won't go around, but we're trying to get them to pay it. But either way, I'm protecting you. So there's ways for us to do it without getting into the details. That's the best scenario that you bring this in, early, because the crafting of the deal. Because really, when I said we entitle on finance, the crafting of the deal is the key to everything. The one that Scott just showed you, they wanted to sell, I could do maybe storage units, whatever. And I came back and see they didn't want it. They were in the meetings. We paid them what the property was worth. We then went to work and made it more, which was really hard. But we did. You have a question?
Yeah, you have an idea on land prices around 1,500 north, 2,300 west in Lehigh, for 8,000 square foot lots, 12 acres.
Is it already through the city?
No, needs to be annexed. County line.
I could play. I have to look at the piece and I can get back to you. And if you have something like that, I'd love to look at it. Well, I'll tell you what I found is if you think of the one that was in Salem, we had. I'm sitting with Century Homes. Okay, this is another changing of the way things are done. And I had the park was a little smaller and I had bigger lots, 10,000 square foot lots. He goes, Heath, I'll take them. I'll pay you this for them. I want 6,000 square foot lots. Okay. Went back to the city. I said, your park just got bigger. They said, great. My development costs went down. Frontages went down. In other words, it wasn't the price. The buyer didn't want a big lot. I'm still changing gears. So you said 8,000. I would look at it and I would even be willing to do more open space. Maybe I don't get more lots, but I want smaller lots because it lowers my cost to develop, whereas maybe in open space, it doesn't affect me as much if I do it right because I turn that into storm retention. So yeah, I would love to talk to you about that one.
Cool.
How many acres?
12.7 or something.
It's funny, there's several pockets in Lehigh that need to be annexed in. It's
Yeah. What's too small of a lot for you? Like 4 acres, it's like 3 acres, too small?
To develop or you want a final product?
Both.
Okay, so I keep, the big one we told you about that we picked up that we didn't entitle this 4,000 units. We have 4,000 square foot lots. We're even doing the ones, I don't know if you've seen them where there's a road and you go off of it and it looks like a Y. It goes up and has a Y and each Y is a house. There's 6 houses off a driveway. Once again, I'm going back to the way I think. I'm like, I can't stand that. But then I look at it when it's done, it looks nice. They each have a little teeny backyard. So in other words, that's a little more than a townhome, but it's big. That's only maybe 3,000. And it's not, so I'm giving you a scale. We have some 4,000s. 6,000 is kind of now the new 8,000. But I love a 5 or a 4 because it lowers the cost. Because my customers one of the small stuff they give, and I call them townhome homes. In other words, go look at townhomes, cut it off, say, there's a house. They look just like a townhome because it's got some mirror on the front. They do have their own backyard, a little fence, barbecue in the back, so they get a little bit of that, but it comes back to the price point.
And so are you asking which, this is too small to develop, like the parcel that's too small?
Well, that's the house.
Yeah.
The other one, it all depends. We're moving into the bigger stuff. This 12 acres, I mean, I'll look at that. But generally speaking, we're looking at bigger ones, if at all possible. Bigger meaning 100 acres or more. But if you've got a smaller one, we'll look at it.
It depends on the density, really.
Yeah, so if we go to the Sugar House area, I don't see where am I at, over that way even, you drive down these old roads, right? And they're like, you got like beautiful stuff and crap. And then some rundown, no one's mowed a lawn in years. And I think the city is giving zones where I can tear down 2 houses and get 12 condos. And they're going for high dollars. I'm interested in those because for the work I'm doing, the margin. So to me, it's numbers, density. So even if it's a small piece, if I get density, that justifies. Because in many ways, a few thousand units is the same as 20. Meaning the work. Now, that's for our team. I have a great team of gray hairs. So I say that because they're hardened. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Scott and Heath. That was a really great class. Let's give those guys another round. That was a lot of information. Thank you, guys. We have Inspiro, we have Christopher and Paul here from Inspiro. They have brought lunch for you today. We're very grateful for that, and we want to give them just a few minutes to come up here and introduce themselves and kind of tell you a little bit about, if you haven't had a chance to meet these guys, they're just down on the first floor. Just excited to help you and excited to be involved. So thank you so much for bringing lunch.
Yes.
We appreciate you being here. Go ahead.
We'll spend about the next 30 minutes talking, and then you can have your food. You're ready to eat, so it's in there. It's ready to go. We're super excited to be here again. We just launched last week. You saw Summit. We're downstairs. We're here to answer any questions you have. We're here to develop relationships with you and your clients. So any situation, questions, scenarios you have, Paul, come talk to Paul. He's down there all the time. You can come talk to me anytime if you like. But we just want you to know we are here for you. That's why we're here. That's our sole focus is on Century 21 Everest agents, your clients, and your business. So whatever you need, you let us know. No questions too small or too big or too silly. We want to educate you and your borrowers to make sure it's a wonderful experience that they have with you and with the Everest family. So just know that our doors are always open, and you can call us anytime with any questions you have. We're there to help you. So we'll be here tonight. Come and enjoy the food.